Hi, this is Marios-Nicolaos Charalambous, and this is the second episode of Long Story Short, dedicated to those few middle managers that are actually aware of what their job is all about, and are at the same time lucky enough to be working for people who empower them in a practical rather than in some abstract theoretical way. If you think this combination is rare, so do I. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to believe that there are more of this kind of managers in natural history museums as exhibits rather than in real life. Talking about exhibits, take a look at this. This little piece of paper brought me a great deal of frustration the other day, and I'm about to tell you all about it. I received a phone call from Piraeus Bank a few months ago. Piraeus is currently the biggest bank in Greece. To cut a long story short, no pun intended, as Greece's financial woes worsened, Piraeus was getting bigger and bigger, mainly by buying over smaller banks. This is how I ended up being their customer as well. So the people from Piraeus told me that it's been 10 years since they last updated my personal data, and thus I had to visit one of their branches to do so if I wanted to gain use of my account again. So far so good. So sure enough, I visited one of their branches, packed with people. I'm starting to think that either there's something bad going on, maybe a robbery perhaps, or this bank has some very serious issues when it comes to client service. Bad start. Anyways, I find a lady sitting in a corner that somehow didn't look busy at all despite all the mayhem in the branch. So I approach, I tell her my story and ask whether she can help me out. She says yes, and sure enough, a few seconds later, there was my personal profile on her screen. Then she starts writing this little list that I showed you earlier and says, you will need to bring me these in order to be in a position to positively identify you. Well, that looked a lot of stuff to me, but nevertheless I said okay. So there was, 2 days later, back in the same branch, bearing with me some official documents that would help her identify me. I'd even put the little blue tick marks that you saw next to each document that I brought in order to ensure that I wouldn't forget anything. So as the lady was going through all the documentation that I brought her, she seemed pretty happy overall until she reached the last document. She says, what's this? I said, it's my driver's license. She says, and what am I supposed to do with that? Well, I said, you asked for my Greek tax identification code, so I brought my driver's license because it has my TIC on it. She says, I cannot use that. I need to have an official confirmation from the tax authorities. So, much to my chagrin, I said, you know what? I do not like to argue. I understand that you're following the instructions that you were given. So, let me have a talk with the manager and I'll sort this out with them. She says, but I'm the manager. I said, why? Well, the branch doesn't have a manager at the moment, so I'm filling in since I'm the longest serving employee here. And you think that's a manager's job, I said. To be the longest serving employee in a specific position, to take a box. You're supposed to be in a position to take responsibility, to make decisions. That's a manager's job. You've enough documentation here to positively identify me beyond any reasonable doubt. Yet you refuse to give me access to my account because I brought you my driver's license as proof of my TIC, which, by the way, is an official document of the Hellenic Republic, instead of a confirmation from the tax authorities. And you claim to be a manager. She said, my job is not to make decisions. My job is to follow the procedures that I was given. Well, anyhow, people, let me cut a long story short here and explain why someone should get fired over this role. A manager is, among other things, an enabler. A manager needs to be empowered to make everyday decisions that will allow employees to get the job done. An empowered manager needs to demonstrate good judgment and not cower from making decisions and taking responsibility. That is the alpha and omega of the post, and is the reason why that woman should get fired. You feel sorry for her? Fair enough. Do not fire her, demote her. Is she not empowered? Fine. Fire someone from the upper management. Middle managers are the guardians of culture that the upper management wants to implement in the company. In that sense, they're the team's point guards, acting as an extension of the coach on the court. Therefore, I am allowed to deduct as a customer that if she was doing her job correctly, then someone in the upper management wasn't. Cut their bonus, impose penalties, I don't care what you do, but this kind of behavior shouldn't be allowed anywhere in the middle management plus hierarchy in any sector of the economy. Bad managers are like poison. All the childish arguments that woman used to avoid making a decision, i.e. doing her job, were overheard by her subordinates working nearby. At that instance, these people were poisoned, thinking that a manager's job is merely to follow procedures, thus being more likely to act in the same way when they reach the same level. And you know what's the worst about poison? Even if you survive, it can still leave you permanent damage.